Mr. President, distinguished colleagues and guests, good afternoon. It gives me great pleasure to be able to participate in the annual awards luncheon of the Jamaican Bar Association. The Jamaican Bar Association is celebrating the 50th anniversary of its existence. This association is sustained by an all-voluntary workforce of attorneys at law who, through its network of myriad committees, zealously and effectively promote its vision and objectives, which are to serve the interests of the public and the legal profession. It has been commendably successful in achieving these goals, and it has my very best wishes for continued success in all its future endeavors. I wish to congratulate my fellow honorees, John Jr., Maurice Saunders, and Donovan Jackson, now deceased. I first met John when we were both about 14 years old. John was a part of the Calabar High School for Boys debating team. A debate was arranged between the debating teams of Woolmer's High School for Girls and Calabar. The Woolmer's girls were all abuzz with excitement and anticipation, as in those days we girls had little or no contact with Woolmer's boys, much more Calabar boys. Then came the fateful day of the arrival of these fascinating aliens, and among them was a suave, charming, intrepid 14-year-old John. That impressive teenager morphed into the lawyer and politician who not only practiced law at the private bar and still does so, but who became a minister of government, occupying various portfolios in a number of iterations of the People's National Party, forming the government of Jamaica. John developed a very impressive resume, but he has remained the same easygoing, approachable human being that he always was, and with not a hint of false pride, an inflated ego, or all-consuming narcissism. Maurice Saunders has dedicated his entire professional career in the service of others. He has been integrally involved in the administration and functioning of the Kingston Legal Aid Clinic and the Norman Landy Law School Legal Aid Clinic. Legal aid is a vital service in Jamaica, as most Jamaicans cannot afford to pay for private legal services. Most importantly, they do not know what their legal rights are, and they do not have a clue as how to enforce them. Maurice has sought to help to correct these injustices in our society and has valiantly sought to enable them to navigate the labyrinthine and arcane corridors of the law and to protect them from being exploited by those only too willing to do so. His has been a legal career which has been involved in the most noble and altruistic of pursuits, that is, helping others who cannot help themselves. I did not know Donovan Jackson very well. I occasionally sat beside him at bar council meetings, but he was not a very talkative person, and I was reluctant to intrude upon his armor of silence and his inscrutable sphinx-like demeanor, I being garrulous by nature. However, I hear only good things about him from people who knew him better than I did. He left us so suddenly and much earlier than our average life expectancy. I regret his passing, and I extend my sincere condolences to his family, who have to endure the loss of a beloved family member, husband, and father. I am sure they will treasure the wonderful memories they have of him. All three of my fellow honorees are very worthy of the honor bestowed on them by the Jamaican Bar Association. I also recognize and congratulate the celebrants, namely those attorneys at law who have reached the significant milestone of having practiced for 50 years. It takes a particular type of person with great resilience and courage to have done so. I now wish to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation to the Jamaican Bar Association for having included me among its honorees. I am honored by the recognition bestowed and to have joined the ranks of those who have received it prior to this The rest of this response is dedicated to all those, named and unnamed, who assisted me in achieving whatever successes I may have had in my professional career. They are all woven into the tapestry and fabric of what is my life. I recognize and thank Dennis Vernon Daly KC and his wife Claudette, both deceased, for facilitating my entry into the highly competitive world of private practice in March 1973. I had the good fortune to be accepted into the chambers of Dennis Daly. He made space for me when he had none, and provided me with the ideal environment to allow me to develop my fledgling practice. Dennis was an attorney who was a philanthropist, one who had a highly developed social conscience and who was incensed by the social, financial, and political inequalities in the society. He walked the talk, and his client base was made up of those most marginalized in the society and who could ill afford to pay him. He was an outstanding, noble, and honorable man. His wife, Claudette, voluntarily became my unpaid secretary, and with a generosity of spirit, performed all my secretarial services without asking for or expecting any financial reward. I am forever indebted to them. K.D. Knight and Earl Witter were also in these chambers at the time I was. All four of us were admitted to the inner bar later on in our careers, which is a further testament to the influence of Dennis Daly. I have always practiced as an advocate only, hence I regularly appeared before judges who had to endure my tentative forays into advocacy and the fumbling and bumbling of a novice. All of them, dead and alive, have my utmost respect, and I am very grateful to all those who extended kindness and understanding to me. They made my life a little easier and allayed my nervousness and my fears. I can never forget the firms and single practitioners who briefed me. I would have had no practice without them. I'm unable to remember all of them over so many years, but to name a few, they were Jennifer Misado and Clinton Hart, Piper and Samuda, Samuda and Johnson, Rattray Patterson Rattray, Harold Brady and Company, Patrick Bailey and Company, Gordon Steer of Chambers, Bunny and Steer, Dorcas White, Violetta Green, and Deborah MacDonald, with whom I've had a professional relationship of over 3 decades, and with whom I share a personal friendship born of the longevity of our professional relationship. My sincere thanks to all my clients who sustained my practice, whether or not you were pleased or displeased with my services. Be assured that in every case I gave of my very best, never thinking that anything but my best efforts were good enough. It would be remiss of me not to recognize and thank my support staff, Mrs. Sandra Jackson, my former secretary, now retired, who was in my employ for 31 years, Miss Carrie Speed, my present secretary, who is so competent, principled, and reliable, and who has been with me for 16 years, Mrs. Sona Gordon-Dixon, my clerk, who performs so many different functions in my practice and has been with me for 28 years. All 3 ladies embody courtesy, honesty, and integrity. I now pay homage to the most important people in my life, my parents Samuel and Lilla, who have been dead for 35 years and 41 years respectively. My father was deeply committed to my being given the opportunity to have an excellent education. He was very strict and demanded high standards of academic performance from me. From a very early age, he taught me subjects such as Latin, Spanish, arithmetic, and English grammar. He had his blackboard, his chalk, textbooks, and he gave me lessons. He had been a teacher before he became a solicitor. It is from him that I acquired my lifelong love of reading. He carefully scrutinized all my school reports and subjected them to withering critiques when necessary. I feared these sessions and strived to do well in order to avoid them. From my birth, he mapped my schooling. He sent me to do law and was willing to pay anything to advance my academic career as far as he could dictate and as far as I desired. I see clearly now what I didn't fully appreciate then. He wanted the very best for me and certainly better opportunities than he had had. My success was his success. My mother, Lila, was an exceptional human being. She was kind, loving, and very caring. I cannot remember an occasion when she ever even shouted at me to behave myself, although I sometimes deserved it. She showed a great deal of respect to all persons, no matter their station in life, and she expected me to do the same. She was empathetic and sympathetic and understood the suffering of other people and helped whenever she was able. She was generous to a fault. Very few people in our little town of Aracabessa were well off economically, although some had more than others. I like to think that I have, even to a lesser degree, the humanity she demonstrated. Although so many decades have passed since the death of my parents, I think of them every day and how they each contributed to the development of my character. I love and honor them. The last survivor of my parents' generation on either side of my family is my father's sister, Elsa Capleton Atkinson, known fondly as Dottie. She's now 98 years old. Her greatest wish is that she lives to be 100 years old. I wish that for you too, Aunt Dottie. Finally, I recognize my children, Deirdre and Nigel, whom I love deeply and with whom I share a relationship of mutual love and respect. They have been my emotional and physical support, not only in good times, but in my times of distress and severe challenges. They have been there for me, going well beyond the call of duty. I'm proud to say that they are not only my children, but my best friends. In closing, I thank all of you who have graced this event with your presence. I deeply appreciate it.